Hello, I hope you're doing good today. Grandma wants to try something a little different this time. I have fond memories of sitting in the hallway and reading stories to my kids after they were all in bed. And I thought, well, perhaps you might like to listen to Grandma read you a story. Um, Thinking I don't want to do too much at once, so I'm thinking of doing it in maybe 5-minute segments. And then if you want to listen to more than one in an evening, that works fine, or you can just do one at a time, or you can listen to it during the day if you have time during the day. Um, I'm just hoping you might enjoy this story. It is called Call It Courage. This is a book that I think your parents really like. I liked it. Grandpa likes it. It's a good story. It happened many years ago, before the traders and missionaries first came into the South Seas, while the Polynesians were still great in numbers and fierce of heart. But even today, the people of Hikaru sing this story in their chants and tell it over the evening fires. It is the story of Mafatu, the boy who was afraid. They worshipped courage, those early Polynesians. The spirit which had urged them across the Pacific in their sailing canoes before the dawn of recorded history, not knowing where they were going, nor caring what their fate might be, still sang its song of danger in their blood. There was only courage. A man who was afraid, what place had he in their midst? And the boy, Mafatu, son of Tavananui, the great chief of Hikaru, always had been afraid. So the people drove him forth, not by violence, but by indifference. Mafatu went out alone to face the thing he feared the most. And the people of Hikaru still sing his story in their chants and tell it over the evening fires. It was the sea that Mafatu feared. He had been surrounded by it ever since he was born. The thunder of it filled his ears, the crash of it upon the reef, the mutter of it at sunset, the threat and fury of its storms. On every hand, wherever he turned, the sea. He could not remember when the fear of it first had taken hold of him. Perhaps it was during the great hurricane which swept Hikaru when he was a child of 3. Even now, 12 years later, so how old is he? 12 plus 3, 15. Even now, Mafatu could remember that terrible morning. His mother had taken him out to the barrier reef to search for sea urchins in the reef pools. There were other canoes scattered at wide intervals along the reef. With late afternoon, the other fishermen began to turn back. They shouted warnings to Mafatu's mother. It was the season of hurricane, and the people of Hikaru were nervous and ill at ease, charged, it seemed, with an almost animal awareness of impending storm. But when at last Mafatu's mother turned back toward shore, a swift current had set in around the shoulder of the reef passage, a meeting of tides that swept like a mill race out into the open sea. It seized the frail craft in its swift race. Despite all the woman's skill, the canoe was carried on the crest of the churning tide, through the reef passage, into the outer ocean. Mafatu would never forget the sound of his mother's despairing cry. He didn't know then what it meant, but he felt that something was terribly wrong, and he set up a loud wailing. Night closed down upon them, swift as a frigate's wing, darkening the known world. The wind of the open ocean rushed in at them, screaming. Waves lifted and struck at one another, their crests hissing with spray. The poles of the outrigger were torn from their thwarts. The woman sprang forward to seize her child as the canoe capsized. The little boy gasped when the cold water struck him. He clung to his mother's neck. Moana, the sea god, was reaching up for them, seeking to draw them down to his dark heart. Off the tip of Hikaru, the uninhabited islet of Tikato lay shrouded in darkness. It was scarcely more than a ledge of coral, almost awash. The swift current bore directly down upon the islet. Dawn found the woman still clinging to the pura pole. That's the type of wood, the pole, and the little boy with his arms locked around his mother's neck. The grim light revealed sharks circling. Little Mafatu buried his head against his mother's cold neck. He was filled with terror. He even forgot the thirst that burned in his throat. But the palms of Tikoto beckoned with their promise of life, and the woman fought on. When at last they were cast up on the pinnacle of coral, Mafatu's mother crawled ashore with scarcely enough strength left to pull her child beyond the reach of the sea's hungry fingers. The little boy was too weak even to cry. At hand lay a cracked coconut. The woman managed to press the cool, sustaining meat to her child's lips before he died. I'll stop there and I'll record some more.